All right, so getting started. I'm Shauna Graves, the instructor for this NRM class this summer on social media and outreach, and I'm inviting people to talk about their work in communications and media. And our guest today is Conley Razor. And would you introduce yourself, Conley, and tell us a little bit about your business ventures and work in media, just at introductory level?
Sure. Yeah,
Thanks.
no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. Yeah, my name is Conley Razor. I'm co-owner of Razor Creative, which is a media company we started back in 2020. My partner and cousin, a business partner and cousin, he has had close to 20 years experience in video broadcasting through news stations. I myself have had 20 plus years of experience doing various outreach, public speaking, web design, web development, and media creation through graphic design and whatnot. Also music creation. So there's a lot of different hats and a lot of different skills we kind of bring to the table. And we came together. We're both Sul Ross alums. And we're doing real well with our business. I also have a lot of experience and background in public broadcast through the radio station too.
Right. I think that's how a lot of people are going to recognize you locally, is through your work as a DJ with Big Ben Radio. Mm-hmm. And I know you scaled back and are just focusing on your Saturday podcast, but you were a really solid presence on the local radio scene for the past few years, couple years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, I know. When I think about it too, it just escapes me a little.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so I know that's not your biggest priority, but I would like to draw from some of your experience with that, because it seemed like a role where you did community knitting, mm-hmm. Where you were a voice of encouragement, a cheerleader for the town, a networking agent, mm-hmm. A provocateur, and I think that would be interesting to get into. So,
sure. Yeah.
Well, how did you get into your career in media and communications?
Well, I think it's recognizing your strengths and understanding what communication is, right? For me, the way I really started, I was very outgoing, very friendly. I like talking to people. I just naturally gravitated to that. But even more than that, I enjoyed listening to stories. I enjoyed ingesting all the different forms of communication that comes with talking with people. That's like, visual communication is your first, pillar there, right? So people see you and you have a style, you have, your swagger, your the way you carry yourself, right? And then also the way that you listen and kind of digest these stories whenever you're talking one-on-one with people. That was always very intriguing to me, right? So I've always found myself fascinated with other people's stories, and even those that can't communicate as well. I feel like I really take a lot of pride in being able to listen to their story and tell it in a different way, under a different light. So that's just something I've always loved to do ever since I was a very young kid. And and not only that, but the connections made throughout all of our stories. Like, we all are on a path, and each of those connections, everybody has their own unique life, their own unique story, and it's something to be appreciated, not ignored. And that's something that the radio did give me a great opportunity with, is to be able to listen and be able to care about people and really genuinely care, listen to them, and then help that story just really come to life.
Yeah, I think that really came through with your work as a DJ, and I like what you said, how you can listen to someone's story that they may even have a hard time articulating, and you can bring the story to the surface, to make it more compelling, or to make that connection that maybe they're having a hard time making. I think that is where a lot of the value of good communications comes in. But let's see. Okay, so this is my first podcast ever, so I'm not up there Joe Rogan League. I have to refer to a piece of paper.
You're fine. Yeah.
let's see. Can you talk about how traditional communications have changed over the years? You're coming from a background of video and radio and graphic design and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely been an evolution in how we express ourselves, right? And, that started with that, the hark, here, the town crier, I think, right? In the town, and he would just yell out all the news and people would listen. Then we had the printing press with the newspaper, mass communication there. And newspaper's been tried and true for quite a while. So that's been a really good means of getting something tangible in someone's hand that doesn't go away. It's not fleeting. And then we had the radio station, right? And everybody tuned into the radio at a certain time. It was like their primetime TV. And then you have television, which way back in the day, we had just a few channels, primetime channels. Cable came out. More forms of expression were out there for all of us to kind of soak in and listen to, right? And be entertained by. When you're talking with people or working all day long, you like to come home and kind of get that form. Well, with the birth of the internet, that really changed. I mean, it was the biggest game changer ever. And now anybody has the ability, but with very little cost, to be able to communicate and build their audience with anyone.
Right. You can even start with social media platforms and go from there, build a website, start a podcast. With the radio, things can move into the modern times slower out here. And I noticed with the radio, while you were there was some modernization there. Podcasts would get, the website became more of a resource so people could refer to it, where you said a newspaper isn't fleeting. Well, radio is kind of fleeting, but if you have the old newsreels or the podcasts available online, you can refer back to it. So that's one way that I saw y'all embrace technology. And that is something that is very important. Not all the programs are recorded, but certain programs are, like, say, the Science Nights in the Morning. That is a recorded program, but it's on almost every single podcast platform. It's on the radio. People listen to it, they pick it up, and it's been on for years, which is good. So it really, right now, I feel like the dynamic is kind of merging. The traditional styles of communication are really merging with the new styles of communication. And now, even more with AI, it's getting into that next dimension. Right. So, new toy to play with. So can you tell us a little bit about your podcasts? Nights. Well, I have Science Nights in the Morning. I've hosted multiple roundtable discussions. I also have Whispers of the Big Ben with Jason Woodward. Have not advertised that quite a lot yet because we're still building, and we're trying to get about 10 to 20 episodes before we start pushing it. Okay. What's that one about?
That one is with me and Jason basically talking about the lore of the Big Ben, but we actually interview guests that have lived it. So every single episode, we have somebody, the Peppers, that do the Terlingua chili cook-off.
Oh, nice.
Back in the day. There's so many legends and so many cool stories about that.
Yeah.
So we find people in town or around in the Big Bend area that have these fascinating stories. And they have an outlet to talk about it. They are aging. They are all older, except for Marcus Pepper. He's about our age. It's really nice to be able to preserve that story.
That's really great. We need more of that out here. So with that, where is that going to be broadcast?
I'm talking with a few stations in Del Rio. I'm talking with some here as well. But it will be broadcast through podcast, so everybody can have access to it.
So are you getting into the business side of things? Are you trying to get that picked up so that you get some income from it, or do you have a grant that pays for your time for doing that?
Actually, as far as broadcasting goes, all of that is just my passion, right? But it's the way I see it, it's an exercise for my own communication, because we all need to do that. Like, you can't be the absolute best that you can be, because what really generates our income is through the interviews I do for our videos. And to be able to extract emotion from people, to really listen and get that timing down, get the deep questions in there, and help them get past that nervous kind of wall, and then open up, and then they forget the camera happens.
Right.
That's when the real magic, the real essence, you can hear the passion in their voice, and that not a lot of people can do, and that's what we specialize in with Razor Creative. We create visual stories. That's where all of our money goes. And then kind of as an in-kind gesture to keep all these stories going, we basically donate our time and energy to create these other podcasts. But right now they don't generate money, and you're not going to get rich unless you have a lot of sponsors. But right now it's all about the story and building a library.
Well, that's awesome. It's a service out here, communication service. So back to Science of the Nights Roundtable. Did I get that right?
Science Nights in the morning.
Science Nights in the morning.
Yeah.
Science Nights in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what.
Science Nights in the morning.
Science Nights in the morning. Can you talk about your audience with that and your goals with that podcast?
Absolutely. What's so nice about the nights is that, we serve a niche, a niche where we're in a college community. We have a great following. A lot of people really enjoy listening to me and three doctors, kind of ham it up a little bit.
And just for background, this is a podcast that is exploring science ideas of the day and that sort of thing. So it's a science podcast.
Yeah, It's a science podcast focusing on various topics revolving around science. We get a lot of really good world-renowned guests. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewing Cyprian Ardilian, who discovered basically predated humans by another 23,000 years, which is a huge landslide as far as discoveries go. So a very, very prominent archaeologist from Mexico. So
nice.
We have the opportunity to meet these people and talk to them all about science. And that's the niche that we hit are all across the world, really. We have people listening from Norway, Sweden. We have scientists listening from India, Australia, and everywhere in between. A lot of Brazil, people in Brazil listen, and I get contact from people all across the world. So,
where was the inspiration to start that podcast?
For that particular one, I was actually approached. I was already on the radio. I was probably in my first year of radio out here about 6 years ago. And they approached me, and I was working, I was still going to Sul Ross. And the three professors, one of them I had taken, Dr. Thomas Schiller, he was my professor, and they approached me to say, hey, we talk, at night about all these different science topics. We're thinking we want a show. And so I started it. They loved it. And we have over 200 something episodes right now over the past 6 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really neat.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and we're continuing on, and we are developing not only just the science people, but the people who like to explore the cutting edge too. So,
how has that podcast developed over years? How has your communication and kind of the trajectory, the goals, how has that podcast developed over the past few years?
Yeah, for that particular one, whenever you start something, you have to just suck at it. Like you have to start it and you have to suck. But you know what? You did it. You're doing it. And you have so much opportunity to learn from all of your mistakes that you go through the whole entire process. But never giving up is the biggest aspect of that, right?
Yeah.
So when we first started, it was just the 3 nights, and I would just say welcome. I would, but then in order to, because not everybody talks at that scientific level, it goes over their head a lot. Then I started coming in with a lot of kind of layman kind of questions and terms and language. And
to clarify what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah. And that mesh with all of us and the way our cadence moves throughout has really naturally grown into a positive light. You know, we try to add a little humor. We try to add a lot of good information and fascinating subjects. And now we have it down kind of to a science, but we're still learning. We haven't perfected it.
Well, I think it's grown a lot just since I picked up listening to it, and I think it's a really great podcast. So well done to all of y'all.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. So you've talked a lot about what I have written here. I was wondering what inspires you about communications, and it sounds like really being able to elevate the voices of the region and your community, and to reflect back some of the beauty you see in their stories to them. And
yeah, it's amazing because, you know, that value, that appreciation that you can have for somebody else, it just opens something in your heart too. And that's how I've always wanted, that's how I was taught from my great parents and my fantastic family, my friends, and we like to be in that environment to where we can truly care about someone else, even if they're a stranger. And that's something I've seen out here. The desert's very dangerous and it's very harsh. It's not for everybody, right? But people out here in this area have that, respect for each other, right? That we can endure the harsh conditions, and we're so blessed, honestly, to have each other here, especially in a harsh area,
Right. It's not just the desert. It's also the isolation and all the other things that there's a lot of unique challenges out here. And once you do tick off 5 years under your belt, you're like, okay, all right. Yeah. I get a little badge.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. We need that. That's a good idea. I like that idea.
Well, so it sounds like you have another podcast in development. Can you repeat that one again?
That one is Whispers of the Big Bend.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And it's you along with who?
Jason Woodward. Okay. She is a longtime resident here. She used to be the postmaster in Terlingua for many, many years.
Oh, neat.
And she actually has a podcast that's number 2 or 3. It used to be number 1 on Apple Podcasts.
Oh.
It's called Borderline. And that is her story when she was captured. And it was a very, very traumatic time, but she took that energy and she turned it into a story. And she created from that. She didn't let that traumatic event defeat her. She's such a strong person and a great storyteller as well. So she not only has a book, but she also has a podcast, and they're going to be doing a movie about that. So podcasting is a good form to get your ideas out there, and then other people can kind of transmute that podcast into other mediums.
How interesting. Well, what else is on the horizon for you?
Well, we are currently working with all of our clients. Like I say, I do a lot, graphic design, web development. I teach classes as well, and I do a lot of trainings. Currently, we have a lot of really good clients that we do 3 to 5 minute visual stories for. So we're working on those right now. But luckily, we are in the process of doing 2 documentaries that will actually begin shooting near the end of the year. We've already started one, which is called Resurrecting the Shaman. And it's about the rite of passage ceremony and how we've kind of been disconnected from this spiritual kind of awareness in our culture. And then the other one is North American Desert Road Trip, which me and Sean Graham, he's a science knight.
Yeah.
And him and I are going to be exploring the North American deserts.
Wow.
And we have our crew, and we're going to go out there, and that one will probably pitch to, Discovery or Nat Geo. Cyprian, the guy that I'm talking to tomorrow, he already has a documentary out on those outlets. So
that's excellent.
There's all kinds of opportunities, right?
Yeah. So you just keep working at it. You build your repertoire, you build your experience, and you make connections, and you network, and you keep going for it. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I guess that wraps it up. I just wanted a short and sweet conversation, and appreciate your insights so much. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Sean. I really do appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you invited me on here. If you need anything else, please let me know. I'm happy to help.
Thanks, Conley.
All right. Thank you.